Megaliths continue to be an enigma of the ancient world and a strong piece of evidence for lost civilization. There are many of these enormous stones found all over the world. Some incorporate into ancient structures, now turning to dust due to their immense age. Some found abandoned, now slowly being engulfed by millennia of geological accumulation. And some of the largest claimed as geological formations. Many of these stones, according to academia and their supportive sheeple, were left where they lay due to their immense scale. However, we feel this explanation is an attempt to conceal a lost, once highly capable civilization, rather than an attempt to accurately understand the original intentions of their creators. For example, the stone of the pregnant woman of Baalbek, weighing in at more than 1,000 tons, was long explained away as having been left where it is found. This due to its immense size, claimed as having been too large for our ancestors to move. This tale, still circulated by certain groups of thought, regardless of the fact that since this excuse was created, the stone has been found to be resting atop another, possibly of a larger scale, making the remnants of a stone wall, once of unimaginable size. The weights that would have been involved in these constructions, their foundations, and indeed the weight-bearing features that were incorporated into the design of the builds, are inconceivable to the modern man, let alone our well-studied ancestors, which academia claims as their builders. Structures such as the Great Pyramids were undoubtedly calculated and carried out by a civilization of immense capability. For example, on a much smaller scale, yet still demanding unquestionably advanced knowledge of architecture, a structure we recently covered, the Treasury of Atreus. This enormous ancient dome also incorporates features indicative of advanced civilization. Known as a relieving triangle, this small triangular opening above the structure's enormous 120-ton lintel was included as a necessity to carry weight away from the doorway down the structure's design. This feature included to prevent undue stress on the stonework, undoubtedly contributing to the structure's longevity. These advanced architectural features, along with the original schematics of the building, were created by individuals with an incredibly advanced understanding of building methods. It is clear to all who investigate these features in detail, architectural characteristics shared throughout the ancient world, that they were simply not understood by our less capable, more recent ancestors. The mind-boggling calculations that were accurately made before the structures were undertaken are clear for any architect of the modern age to see, and when confronted with these details, many quickly realize just how astounding these ancient achievements were. This conclusion can be made absent the enormous blocks that were also included in the build. Regardless, the fact that these stones were also a necessity to accomplish such feats, they are undoubtedly highly compelling. Tambo Machai is an ancient site located within Peru that, like so many others within this remarkable landscape, clearly demonstrates a level of sophistication within its stonework unquestionably far out of the reaches of those who are academically claimed to have been the builders of these remarkable sites. It is a site that not only possesses the same mind-boggling methods of polygonal masonry as that of Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman, among many others, but also exhibits an excellent example of the levels of refinement that also went into the building of the irrigation systems throughout the area. Systems that, although unimaginably old, still function perfectly to this day. Furthermore, and perhaps most intriguing regarding this area, even eclipsing these astonishing feats of ancient engineering, is an area in particular which exhibits some of the most perplexing peculiar feature to be found anywhere in ancient Peru. This area of stone is not merely vitrified, but was, at some point within the distant past, turned to lava. With the limited investigations available, predictably none of which undertaken by funded academics, It has been revealed that this mysterious event did not occur as one would have presumed from a heating from above, but from beneath, or perhaps from within the center of the stonework, successfully melting the stone wall in its entirety into a pool of liquid magma. And although largely overlooked by tourists, and indeed academics alike, the evidence of the stone having once turned to liquid is undeniable. The question then, what turned this stone to liquid? Was it some form of weapon? Or perhaps is this evidence to suggest how polygonal walls were once built? Perhaps these as yet unexplained polygonal walls were constructed with such precision due to a past ability of its builders, able to melt and shape these stones prior to placement. Or perhaps, could this melted stone be evidence of a war? One that occurred between the inhabitants of these ancient ruins and an unknown entity, ultimately resulting in their demise. Perhaps being the reason why these highly advanced, highly capable ancient people from these civilizations not only mysteriously disappeared, but left many a quarry amid ancient stonework seemingly abandoned, left where we find them today. In another area of the world, far away from Peru, there also exists compelling evidence of such a war, having actually once taken place with a possible entity from above. Eerily, this site is claimed as the remnants of a battle with God, specifically surrounding the biblical story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sulfur balls embedded among the landscape at this specific site is undoubtedly compelling evidence to support these accounts of war, a holy war undertaken at this specific location that, regardless of Holy Scripture, was fought with a foe of considerable ability. Exclusively found at these sites are white, pure sulfur balls embedded in the mortar that now, due to their tremendous age, are slowly turning to powder. The sulfur found at these sites has also, intriguingly, been tested from 93% to as high as 98% pure sulfur, with trace metals such as magnesium found within that would have produced astounding heat, easily capable of melting stainless steel and indeed the stones within Peru. Furthermore, the brimstone found is significantly different to sulfur found elsewhere, almost as if this brimstone was specifically designed. For example, sulfur from within natural geothermal regions is yellow in crystal form. We find all these evidential factors highly compelling. Along with the many other unexplainable feats undoubtedly left by a highly advanced, highly capable lost civilization, there are the countless examples of extreme precision stone cutting. Not only is this remarkable past capability visible in their many stone walls and fortresses alike, but also in their exquisite artwork. If we look upon the statues of ancient Egypt, for example, the symmetry, along with the proportional precision present within their statues, is not only perfection personified, but unquestionably far too advanced for the so-called academically claimed builders to have achieved. According to the academics, along with their subsequent supposed accurate writings, these extraordinary feats of artistic perfection were somehow created by a group of individuals who were merely equipped with copper tools. Not only is this claim clearly ignorant of reality, but to create such works of symmetrical accuracy was unquestionably the work of a group of individuals far more advanced than even that of the Victorians, let alone those who thrived along the banks of the Nile more than 3,000 years ago. Not only is this precision present along the Giza Plateau, but it is also found at ancient sites all around the world. Masterfully created statues and structures, often carved straight out of stone bedrock, with such vision and artistic prowess that many now presume that the individuals capable of such feats must have had advanced machinery at their disposal. Most of ancient India, for example, is created with such delicacy and exactness that we today could only accomplish the same with the utilization of modern machines. Furthermore, many scholars and independent researchers, even a number of highly recognized academic Egyptologists have reluctantly concluded that many of the basalt, gypsum, and other vases shaped from extremely hard stones, and indeed a number of multi-ton sarcophagus lids, were indeed turned into the shapes we see them as today, on some kind of ancient, enormous lathe. This conclusion is made regardless of the fact that to create such enormous stoneworks on a lathe would have undoubtedly been out of the realms of capabilities for those who are currently claimed as their creators. Not only do the ornamental artifacts of Egypt and much further afield strongly indicate machined working, but there is also overwhelming evidence of these same machines reminiscent of modern stone-cutting equipment present all over the world. Yet, conveniently, it is quietly ignored by the same individuals who have supposedly unraveled the history of these sites. Pumapunku, Giza's basalt floor, other areas throughout Giza, Peru, Malta, the list goes on. All these sites not only indicate an advanced, highly capable constructor, but also possess countless marks that, as of yet, we can only explain logically as having been left by precision, quick rotation, stone-cutting machinery. They are yet another overwhelming collection of evidence, which not only flies in the face of current academic explanation, but proof of an advanced, now lost civilization, having once been responsible for these sites' construction. They are highly compelling. Our mission upon our channel is to compile and present enough evidence of the existence of a past, highly capable, technologically advanced ancient civilization that once flourished here upon our planet, that it not only proves their existence beyond reasonable doubt, but vindicates all those who have either lost careers, funding, or worse, just for telling the truth. Our intention is to display to the world that a civilization once lived here on our planet, that not only mastered the art of stone masonry, but quarried, moved, and built with stones of such gigantic weights. Not only do their activities escape modern explanation, but have been deliberately ignored, covered up, and denied by an academia who claim to have all the answers. There are many areas of the planet which still possess many of these compelling artifacts, not only supporting our premise and conviction, but baffle all who try to explain them. And although, predictably, rarely shared by academics the world over, one of these ancient places is known to the modern man as Italy. Seemingly littered with not only polygonal masonry, ancient pyramidal structures, multi-ton lintels and archways, but contains countless other compelling, extremely ancient yet surviving features, which not only indicates the existence of this past civilization, but have been investigated by a number of alternative antiquarians throughout the eras, who, after in-depth analysis, have come to predictably startling conclusions in regards to their age and indeed possible origins. We have in the past covered a number of these ancient sites, one of which being the Cyclopean Wall, which still surrounds the ancient Acropolis of Alatri, and indeed the astonishing polygonal masonry which makes up the apparently Greek-constructed Necromantion, a place not only proven due to the polygonal architecture to undoubtedly predate this academic explanation, but also, thanks to our own study of the site, has fingerprints left by a tool within the main chamber, said to be the passageway to the underworld of Hades, that we have identified and linked to a number of other unexplained sites found throughout the world. However, this coverage of the Italian relics we have so far explored is but a fragment of what is actually hidden among the winding streets and rolling hills of Italy. Alternative researchers, most notably Giuseppe Lugli, have carried out studies of the unexplained polygonal techniques, which can still be found existing within Italy. The ancient fortifications and polygonal walls, which were researched and initially noted by Giuseppe, include Alatri, Norma, Arpino, Assini, Saracina Gate, Cosa, Alba Fucens, Segni, Pigra, Blera, Lazio, Bomarzo, Latium, San Felice Circio, Latina, Chiusi, Etruria, Tuscania, Vitrala, Viterbo, Monte Albano, Sovana, Toscana, Nardo di Pace, Tirna, Lago di Pitiluca, Orvieto, Umbria, Tuscany, Maremma, Sorano, Syracuse, Sicily, Val di Saviore, Cerveteri, Savignano, and so on. As Richard Casero puts it, a modern researcher of these enigmatic ruins, quote, "The countryside around Rome is littered with relics of a past more or less remote. One feels almost a continuity there, between the ancient and the modern world, with the ancient Roman ruins being almost a familiar presence, as if part of the natural landscape. Yet one also finds there remains of a much older and mysterious past. Massive cyclopean walls encircle towns and villages, their stones darkened by the passing of centuries and millennia. One can never get used to them, so strange they are in their interlocking geometries, and so different from the familiar contours of Roman and medieval walls. They loom as a relic from an entirely different past, of which we know almost nothing." End quote. And as mentioned, although we have only personally covered the Cyclopean walls surrounding Alatri, similar ancient fortifications can seemingly be found enclosing countless other ancient ruins all over Italy. The small towns of Sutri, Emilia, Pellestrina, Ferentino, Segni, Sezza, Veroli, and Arpino, all in the province of Frosinone, Norba, Cori, and Circe, Cortona, Cuma in the province of Latina, Emilia in nearby Umbria, as far as Ansidonia, Orbetello, and Roselle in Tuscany, and Albafucens in Abruzzo, are entirely surrounded by Cyclopean walls, surviving to this day in various states of preservation, an indication of a fear these people had of some form of outsider. The stone walls, some of which constructed from truly gigantic blocks, each weighing many tons, are as finely fitted together as the many other mortarless ruins found elsewhere the world over, such as within ancient Peru. But it is their near impossible acute angles and interlocking corners that cause the greatest of amazement, that just like the polygonal masonry found all over the world, was created as if each stone was individually carved to be a piece of a gigantic jigsaw puzzle. These features, along with their gigantic scale, are relics not only overlooked by the thousands of people who visit Italy each year, but, as we have previously discussed, are overwhelming evidence of an ancient civilization far more capable than any of the well-studied ancestors that academia claim as the original builders. These remnants are undoubtedly evidence of a past civilization that were not only vastly more proficient in masonry than even the modern man, but were also obsessed with building enclosed fortifications, as if to avoid some form of outside invader or possible natural threat. Who built ancient Italy? Why did they build with such focus on fortification? How old are these relics? We feel that due to their inexplicable nature, they are undoubtedly relics left by a now lost civilization, yet continue to be ignored by an academia who deny this people's past existence. Regardless of these denials, we find ancient Italy highly compelling. Bozda Cave, within modern-day Turkey, is unquestionably an astonishing place. An enormous cave system that many people simply assume is a natural formation, with select areas quarried out, subsequently used to build numerous ruins throughout the area. However, what many people have seemingly overlooked, and we presume funded academics have deliberately ignored, are the signatures left all over the stonework throughout the network of caverns, strongly indicating that this huge complex was once, somehow, hewn by ancient man. Also, and perhaps most intriguingly, is that this task was completed using a number of different advanced tools, whose marking, thanks to ours and others' astute research, has also been found scarred upon many other ancient sites, some located far away from this enigmatic cave system. The stone, once quarried out to create this enormous cavern, subsequently located as having been used to create a number of remarkable precision-cut monuments, including a once existing wall which surrounded an ancient site known as Hairan. Additionally, due to the realization of this quarried stone having been used in Hairan, in addition to our own previous research, we have successfully linked Bazda to yet more ancient ruins, all dated to vastly different eras within history. Thanks to our channel's creator possessing a photographic memory, we have correlated undeniable characteristic similarities, connecting many of these ancient sites throughout the world. Firstly, the signatures left by advanced stone-cutting technologies, tool marks left upon the cave system's walls. Scars upon the stonework, which are present at many other sites, Baalbek in Lebanon, Petra in Jordan, Yangshan Quarry within China, and at least 2 rock-cut monuments within India, the roof of a precision-cut cave, and an unfinished temple known as Veduvan Koil. This crescent-shaped scarring, often of an overlapping fashion, we feel is reminiscent of scars left by modern-day tunnel boring equipment. Yet due to the lack of in-depth research surrounding such anomalies, with these tool marks, as far as we are aware, only receiving limited attention at Baalbek and merely photographed at Yangshan, have begun to name such markings ourselves in an effort to categorize and identify such curiosities being discovered worldwide, with these now known to us as crescent cup and ring marks. The second form of scarring, found upon much of the cave's roof, now known to us as groove and ridge markings, are distinctly different in form and appearance to the crescent cup and ring marks. These rows of grooved scars, however, are identical to those found in plain sight upon the unfinished obelisk located within Aswan Quarry, Egypt. A stone monument well over 1,000 tons in weight, which has long been academically argued as having been abandoned where it lay, due to a fault line discovered during the quarrying process. However, interestingly, others have presented strong evidence that this crack appeared later within history. A fellow alternative researcher, Chris Dunn, argues within his book Advanced Technology in Ancient Egypt that the crack happened later on in the obelisk's life, and that the monolith was abandoned before the fault appeared. Backing up his claim, he shows that details upon the monument were being engraved over the top of the location of the fault line, an undertaking that would have clearly been illogical. Although he does not put forward a postulation as to why this crack occurred, we believe it may have been due to a shift in the surrounding geography, more than likely a ground-shifting earthquake, not only cracking the obelisk, but possibly due to and accompanied by a cataclysmic event, which quite possibly caused the demise of the civilization, who were liberating the obelisk, thus leaving it unfinished. But I digress. Our focus is upon the scars left by enigmatic, clearly advanced stone-cutting tools, preserved with clarity upon the erosion-resistant granite of the obelisk. These exact markings also undeniably litter the ceiling of the Bazda cave. Additionally, these groove and ridge marks are also found upon the megalithic, often polygonal stonework within Peru, at Cusco, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, and Machu Picchu, to name but a few. The third set of signature scarring upon the cave stone walls links Bazda Cave to another similarly gigantic artificially created cave system, known as Longyu Caves, located within China. Once an undoubtedly immense excavation, yet the quarried stone from this undertaking has never been located. Millions of tons of stone seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. However, thankfully, the quarried stone from the Bosda cave systems, as mentioned, was utilized and located. However, the civilization responsible for shaping these quarried stones at Haran were unquestionably responsible for several other sites found around the world. YouTube channel New Earth, first linking these curiously shaped stones to Nimrod's fortress on Mount Hermon, with Jerash in Jordan, with us continuing this trail of connecting ancient dots, thankfully due to the uniqueness of stonework.
Let's compare the Nimrod fortress with this historic city in Jordan, which according to mainstream sources was conquered by the Romans, and they built their typical Roman architecture consisting of columns and so on the top of the older ruins. So here they are assuring us that the Nimrod style large blocks are pre-Roman. Now, those very same blocks, when they are in Baalbek, they are telling us it's Roman. In the Temple Mount, they are again assuring us that they are some 2000 years old. In Bosnia, they are telling us they are whatever, 3 or more thousand years old, and of course they are built by some obscure, unknown tribe, of which even the name they had to fabricate.
Enabling us to link the royal kurgan in Crimea to New Earth's discoveries, and now to the ancient ruins of Haran in Turkey. Not only can we argue that this cave system was indeed man-made, but is the only site we know of that possesses such an array of these enigmatic stone-cutting technology scars, allowing us to successfully link it to at least 15 ancient sites around the world. The cave itself, Basran, Haran, Baalbek, Petra, Jerash, Yangshan, Longyu, Vetivancoil, Malmala Param, Cusco, Sacsayhuaman and Machu Picchu, Nimrod's fortress, and the royal kurgan. Possibly many others we are yet to recognize. In conclusion, the vast array of different, as yet unidentified, advanced stone-cutting equipment scars present within the cave, each leaving its own unique signature upon the stone. The shaping of these stones, unique to an unknown civilization's signature handiwork, found worldwide, used within an array of as yet unexplained ruins, academically claimed to be of vastly different ages and the work of vastly different cultures. We find it not only clear evidence of academic fallacy, but incredibly compelling. The royal kurgan, undoubtedly an astonishing, highly unusual ancient structure, one of many such structures found within the local area, yet the royal kurgan the most impressive by far. Found within eastern Crimea, this incredible building, predictably, like many other miraculous, possibly pre-cataclysmic, as yet unexplained ruins, which we so often cover on our channel, not only possesses features strongly indicative of a culture far predating the current academically attested constructors, but this impressive structure, like the many of the other structural relics found throughout the world, is claimed as a mere tomb. We hypothesize this is due to their inexplicable nature, revered by our more recent ancestors, and as such, selected burial locations for rulers of these more modern, well-studied residents of the area, with the royal kurgan being no exception. According to academic study, it was apparently created with the sole purpose of being that of a tomb, constructed for the ruler of the Bosphorus kingdom within the 5th century BC. We postulate, however, that these structures were merely reused as tombs, subsequently becoming locations of worship for these once powerful individuals. Our claim that the kurgan far predates these technologically challenged, academically claimed cultures is also strongly supported by architectural evidence found elsewhere on Earth, sharing unmistakable, compelling characteristics with other well-known ancient structures we have previously covered, which we postulated, due to the great antiquity of the structures, were undoubtedly surviving relics of a now lost pre-Diluvian civilization. It is unquestionably an enigmatic structure, with its most unusual and also recognizable feature being the mysterious, almost unique shape of its stonework. However, most intriguingly, this uniquely shaped stonework is a feature also found within the fortress of Nimrod, located upon the southern slopes of Mount Hermon, located an impressive 1,300 miles away. We find the chances of this extremely unusual type of masonry being made and subsequently used on these separate structures a mere coincidence highly unlikely. It is far more likely, regardless of the extreme distance between the structures, that they were, in fact, built by the same people, a group of highly capable constructors currently ignored by academia. We find it to be a far more likely, logical hypothesis that this mysterious group built the royal kurgan for an as yet unexplained purpose, using stone-shaping methods unique to them. Furthermore, as covered previously, just like Nimrod Fortress, located by New Earth Channel, there is yet another ruin built with these same easily identifiable blocks, found within the oldest foundations of the ancient ruins of Jerash in Jordan. This lost civilization's unique finish to their stonework, incorporated into each build, fortunately makes connecting these builds to the same constructors seemingly undeniable. And due to the fact that the Fortress of Nimrod and Jerash alike feature this stonework at foundation level, officially recognized as the oldest portions of both sites, we can logically presume that the royal kurgan not only shares the same constructor, but also likely shares the same tremendous antiquity. What's more, due to the sheer size of some of the stones utilized within Nimrod, indicates that it is existing work, created using lost knowledge, thus built by a lost civilization. Who built the royal kurgan within eastern Crimea? The surviving foundation at Jerash in Jordan? Or indeed the original structure found at Nimrod's castle? Were these structures built by the same, once highly capable, highly advanced ancient civilization? If not, why do they share such an unusual, unique style of stonework? What was the royal kurgan built for? When was it built? We find its enigmatic shape, construction technique, and indeed seemingly identical stone characteristics, linking it to the other ruins of tremendous antiquity, each located thousands of miles apart. Highly compelling. The Nimrod Castle, which translates as Castle of the Large Cliff, is an astonishing ancient fortress. And although this awe-inspiring site has predictably been dated to the medieval era, we feel that due to the many anomalous megalithic blocks within its construction, it is far older than this, and undoubtedly a remnant left by a highly advanced civilization, now unfortunately lost to history. This due to academia's funded and often deliberate ignorance. Many of the oldest blocks present within the structure, for example, are all upwards of 10 tons, with some of the heaviest recognized as being over 40 tons in weight. How modern curators and academics alike can attest to these ruins having been created by our tremendously less capable medieval ancestors, we feel, is preposterous. According to those in the so-called know, the fortress was created from scratch during the Ayyubid dynasty, placed within the 12th and 13th centuries. The dynasty undoubtedly existed, This we do not deny. We also do not disagree with the posit that the dynasty ruled large parts of the Middle East during these centuries. However, we suspect that, just like the many other unexplainable ancient advanced ruins found throughout the world, these more recent ruling ancestors, and indeed the large array of ancient artifacts which they left, creating an archaeological legacy, has been used to conveniently date and explain this miraculous structure away, avoiding the controversial truth which is clear for all to see. The fortress is situated on the southern slopes of Mount Hermon, upon a ridge that rises over 2,600 feet above sea level, overlooking the Golan Heights. We feel that due to its strategical location, much of the structure was rebuilt upon. This task completed with the purpose of guarding a major access route. We believe that upon the leader of this dynasty, Al-Aziz Uthman, discovering the enormous, impenetrable polygonal masonry still in existence within the walls of the site, that were left by a people who, at some point within antiquity, mysteriously vanished. This leader made the logical decision to build upon the impressive remnants, with these walls being reused, utilized for a more modern fortress. This second phase, predictably made with far smaller blocks, and thus can be easily explained as medieval architecture. A fortress could have indeed been its original purpose. This due to its strategically placed location. Indeed, other ancient, advanced, seemingly impenetrable fortresses can be found in other places within the world, such as Sacsayhuaman, although its true grandeur or its initial advanced builder's intention for the structure may take tremendous, meticulous alternative research to eventually unravel. Furthermore, intriguingly, the enigmatic yet highly recognizable shape of this initial stonework is also present at another site, possibly a number of other sites, although in particular within Jerash, a site currently claimed as Roman. Who built the fortress of Nimrod? How can academia claim that this site was built by the Ayyubid dynasty, while another ruin, unquestionably constructed with the same form of megalithic blocks, seemingly dating for the same era, be that of the Romans? We feel that these two sites, each containing the same building features, yet claimed as completely different civilizations' work, both placed within our more recent history, yet in vastly different centuries, is clear evidence of academic fallacy, evidence of their explanative contradictions when it comes to the many currently controversial ancient ruins of Earth. Nimrod Fortress is yet another jewel in the crown of a civilization currently lost to history. It is undoubtedly highly compelling. When asked what are the largest, heaviest, and indeed the once most difficult stones to ever have been cut, transported to, and precisely placed within the great structures of the Giza Plateau, we would have previously stated that the granite ceiling blocks found within the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid were the largest known, with some of these stones weighing as much as 100 tons. However, it turns out that there exist many other stones upon this mysteriously created plateau, which far exceed the pyramid's inner megaliths. Unsurprisingly, these discoveries are rarely shared academically, or indeed to the many people who pay to visit the Giza Plateau each year. The Valley Temple is but one example of these other, less mentioned, marvelously enormous stones, 8 of which are still present within the structure's ruin, the largest of which still being roughly 3 by 3 by 6 meters in size. Furthermore, the same similarly sized stones can also be found within the Khafren Pyramid Causeway Temple. The structure is also rarely discussed or shared by Egyptologists or archaeologists alike. It seems that academics who fear a loss of funding from particular bodies tend to merely ignore that which they are confronted with, which they simply cannot explain. Again, the same enigmatic megalithic blocks can be found in the Causeway Temple of the Mycerinus Pyramid, one finds the same highly eroded, thus extremely ancient stones. It seems that these huge stones seemingly litter the Giza complex, and amazingly, they are successfully ignored merely due to their controversy. Yet the largest to be found anywhere upon this man-made plateau are to be found hidden in plain sight. Overlooked for many millennia, the still remaining foundation stones, upon which much of the east side of the Khafren Pyramid once stood, were not lifted into place, but were indeed transported to this location and precisely placed into position. These stones are so massive and so perfectly dropped into the surrounding landscape that thousands of people have walked right over them every year without ever realizing what they were standing on. Although the true depth and thus complete scale of the block is currently unknown, if it is of a cubic shape, it would appear to be roughly 3/4 the weight of the pregnant woman of Baalbek. She weighs around 1,001 tons, which would make our foundation stone anywhere from 500 to 750 tons in weight. Clearly, a controversial yet incredible discovery, one which takes our understandings of the sheer undertaking that was Giza are still at an early stage. Nonetheless, such discoveries move us one step closer towards finally understanding just who could have built the Great Pyramid Complex of Egypt. Along with the many other currently unexplained feats of engineering present within the ancient ruins of Baalbek's temples, is undoubtedly the variety of ancient stones that were somehow incorporated into the structures. Although modern academia, and indeed its supporters, who are all seemingly suffering with selective research syndrome, claim that Baalbek is a Roman ruin, we feel, as mentioned, the sheer size of the ancient megaliths that were installed masterfully into its construction are obviously far too large for our Roman ancestors to have transported from distant quarries and who have installed into the structure. We are more than open to this proposition that they were indeed installed and built by Romans, if we can be provided with one single logical explanation as to how this was done. But, as of yet, this remains elusive, absent any academic explanation as to the site. As mentioned, the astonishing array of ancient stones is also an area that is rarely covered by individuals attempting to convey an air of all-knowing to the masses, as these features are, just like the enormous megaliths present at the site, currently unexplainable. Specifically, it's the pink granite columns. The reason for our focus on these particular stones is the fact that this pink granite is only available at one known ancient quarry, that being the famous quarry of Aswan, located within modern-day Egypt, an astonishing 1,500 kilometers away. Some of these stones weighing in at more than 10 metric tons, this achievement, we feel, is clear indication of the fact that the builders of these ancient sites were far more capable than that of our more recent Roman ancestors. For example, as previously covered on our channel, Henri Layard brought 2 lamassu weighing in at a similar size around 10 tons to London. This task took over 18 months of arduous suffering for hundreds of our modern ancestors, placed a mere century ago to complete. It included several near disasters, and included loading them onto wheeled carts, complex systems of modern pulleys and levers operated by dozens of men, the utilization of over 300 men in total, a barge, and a custom-built ramp to haul them up the steps and into the museum. How these same curators, historians, and academics alike can continue to claim that our Roman ancestors completed such tasks, along with the placement of such enormous stone megaliths, is to us absurd. Was the unfinished obelisk found within Aswan the work of the same civilization? We feel that these pink granite columns could, in all possibility, be a link that connects these two ancient sites, and in particular, the Great Pyramids. Was Baalbek, with its enormous granite megaliths, built by the same people as the Great Pyramids? Is the giant megalithic exoskeleton of the Great Pyramids, which we have already exposed, built with the same techniques as Baalbek? We find the evidence to suggest such, highly compelling. Due to the rigidity of academic opinion regarding the history of man, many sites are stubbornly attributed to civilizations that were simply incapable of their construction. Mausoleums, temples, and other structures found all over the world, often carved straight out of the bedrock with such artistic vision and accuracy, they rival even the artistic masterpieces created during the Renaissance. Temples such as the Kailash, among many others found within India alone, that were somehow carved straight out of rock hillsides with stunning precision. Such astonishing feats of ancient stonework that to claim they were created by the currently academically attested cultures, we feel is absurd. Not only are many of these ancient, unexplainable structures built with the utilization of seemingly impossibly huge megalithic blocks, but they also display masonry techniques and refined stone carving that we believe the only logical explanation for their origins is that of a once highly capable, technologically advanced civilization's workmanship. For example, our recent research surrounding the Bosda cave system, the confirmed quarry for the nearby ancient ruins of Haran, with a focus on the stone-cutting tool marks found within, and indeed the easily identifiable shape of the blocks built from this undertaking, we perceive as a possible missing link now connecting a vast number of ancient ruins around the world. Due to it being confirmed as the quarry for Haran, and the unique shape of the stones used in the construction of the site, we have been able to link this signature style of block cutting to many other sites around the globe. With the astonishing ancient rock-cut structures found at the site known as Myra, now also identified as one of these sites, predictably claimed as tombs by academia. And although there is no substantiated written reference for Myra existing before it was listed as a member of the Lycian League in 168 BC, the stonework still existing at the site, thanks to ours and New Earth's efforts, could be seen as that of the same as many other ancient sites, also possessing these signature blocks found at Hassan, which we strongly feel, due to a large amount of evidence, as having a pre-Diluvian origin. These identifiable features most notably found within the theater of Myra, and although the flooring has been robbed out, which we presume was once polygonal, just like that of the flooring found still existing at the ancient amphitheater of Delphi. Additionally, the precision with which these pertained tombs were cut into the sheer cliff face is to us clear evidence of a civilization's work far more capable than that of the academically claimed builders, the Iron Age Lycians, or even the Greeks. We suspect, like the many other incredibly built ancient sites around the world, this site was merely re-inhabited by later civilizations, utilized and indeed claimed as their work, not only due to an absence of documentation of their existence prior to this habitation, making academia's claim to their creators an easy assertion to make, but also due to the perceived illusionary capabilities that these monuments would have lent to the Greeks and prior to them the Lycians' architectural skills. There are two necropolis of these rock-cut temple fronts found at Myra, the first being the river necropolis and the second being the ocean necropolis. The best-known tomb in the river necropolis is the Lion's Tomb, also called the Painted Tomb. This name given to the tomb by traveler Charles Fellows, who in 1840 found the tomb to have still been colorfully painted in red, yellow, and blue. Lycia is known to history since the records of ancient Egypt and the Hittite Empire in the Late Bronze Age. It was populated by speakers of the Luwian language group. Written records began to be inscribed in stone in the Lycian language after Lycia's involuntary incorporation into the Achaemenid Empire during the Iron Age, with ancient sources indicating that an even older name for the region was Alope. How can academics continue to claim that such precisely cut stone structures were the work of such primitive cultures? We believe it to be far more logical to presume that these precision-cut structures were already in existence during these eras, and probably the reason for the area's initial inhabitation. Who built the ancient rock-cut structures of Myra? Were they, as we postulate, created by the same advanced lost civilization we have linked through the stonework to sites the world over? It is undoubtedly an incredible location, with particular identifiable features, which we find highly compelling. After many years exploring the remnants of a past highly advanced lost civilization, a civilization who after extensive study we have identified fingerprints of on literally every continent on Earth, whose identity we have relentlessly searched for, we now feel, after several astonishing realizations, that it may have been right under our nose this entire time. A civilization that, no matter which ancient ruin you find yourself within the world over, undoubtedly vanished during a mysterious event, coming to an untimely demise at the hands of a possible cataclysm, with many theories surrounding a great flood of biblical proportions. As most of you will be aware, there exists legends of a mysterious civilization, which seemingly shares these rumors of demise, yet the connection between them, as far as the general population is aware, has never been made. A civilization that many a scholar has concluded was not only a highly capable, technologically advanced and highly intelligent group, but was also hell-bent on world domination. This civilization is most commonly known as the Atlanteans. Illogically, however, regardless of the immense study of this group traveling far and wide in pursuit of this world control, we have only ever been told of them existing upon a single mystical continent, a place that has been searched for by countless people for over 2,500 years. Yet, predictably, academia staunchly deny any existence of this past culture, or indeed its influence upon a now lost part of human civilization. However, we feel this is a clue which will support our following assertions. Researchers and scholars worldwide have discussed Atlantis for many years, proposing a number of theories and personal opinions as to its past location. A theory of a single continental inhabitation we now feel has been a successful red herring, leading many a talented investigator down an inevitable dead end. Ken Feder, professor in archaeology, however, suggested several things regarding Atlantis in his book Frauds, Myths, and Mysteries – Science and Pseudoscience in Archaeology. Professor Ken suggested, as a result of extensive exhaustive study, that the Atlanteans were incredibly sophisticated, yet perceived as an evil culture that attempted to dominate the world by force. Professor Ken portrays the Atlantean civilization as an evil and war-based civilization, whose only goal was conquest, a hypothesis we feel we can not only support, but extend upon with a large volume of our own research. A Swedish scientist and writer called Olaus Redbeck proposed a rather interesting theory between 1679 and 1702. He wrote a 3,000-page treatise comprising a total of 4 volumes called Atlantica, in which the author attempts to suggest, and indeed prove, that Sweden was Atlantis, the cradle of civilization, and that all human languages evolved from Swedish. We do not confirm nor deny this hypothesis, but we do feel, regardless of where the Atlanteans originated from, they were not existing upon a single mystical continent that sunk into the abyss, but were indeed the dominant force which could be found settled throughout the world. Through our own continuing extensive research of ancient ruins around the world, and the numerous links that we have individually made surrounding these particular ruins, technological characteristics, similarities in building techniques, and unexplained architectural advances, we have concluded that these technologies were shared, not constructed by the same group, but shared as if by a dominating force. Varying from continent to continent in style, with slight alterations present in the techniques involved in the construction of many still surviving sophisticated ancient monuments. We have found, and indeed proven beyond doubt, that there is indeed undeniable links between the technologies used in their construction. For example, the enigmatic tool marks found upon megaliths are uncannily similar. The techniques used to build such monuments, such as metal clamps, although varying in shape and metallurgy, the actual knowledge behind such advancements seems to have been shared by a controlling ruling class, who we now feel matches the known identity of the Atlanteans, the only logical culprit, supported by historical rumor of their technological dominances, the only suspect present within ancient historical accounts. And although these scholars search for a particular continent, we feel we can argue were present on nearly all. Interestingly, there once existed an unquestionably important historical depiction found upon a Mayan plaque, showing the extinction of this mythical advanced civilization at the hands of supravolcanic eruption and a resulting deluge. We hypothesize, and we feel quite logically, that Atlantis sunk due to a worldwide cataclysm, and although they may have indeed originated from a specific location, Atlantis was not a single continent, but the pre-Diluvian world, thus can be identified as the worldwide advanced civilization we have searched for, and regardless of our own continued research, which supports the existence of a civilization that does indeed match their description, clues have also been left to us regarding this possibility throughout history by some of the greatest philosophers to ever live. If, for example, a supervolcanic eruption was to occur, possibly triggered due to naturally occurring increases in solar energy, possibly a cyclical characteristic of our own Sun, then this gigantic plume of ash would plunge the Earth into complete darkness for an unknown duration, possibly triggering an ice age. However, immediately prior to this plummeting of temperature, a dramatic increase in worldwide temperature would be experienced due to this belch of volcanic activity. This dramatic rise in global temperature would melt the ice caps at an incredible pace, flooding the Earth and thus giving birth to the legends of the sinking of Atlantis and indeed the biblical flood. This once existing artistic depiction of this event, created by a surviving Mayan artist, not only shows the eruption of a gigantic volcano, but a man in a boat attempting to escape this event, rowing away hopelessly into the rising deep blue ocean, surrounded by drowning parties, and a sinking landmass covered in ancient pyramids which can be seen behind. This landmass, according to the artist, was known as Aztlan, which translates to English as Atlantis. Our theory that Atlantis was not one continent, but the actual demise of this worldwide advanced civilization, and indeed the world as they knew it, which sunk dramatically, subsequently reformed by this dramatic melting and freezing over the duration of mere weeks or even days, is also supported by a clue left by Plato. According to Plato, and indeed Greek mythology, Atlantis was protected by the god Poseidon, who, for some unexplained reason, made his son Atlas king of this mythical land. We perceive this explanation given by Plato as a clue to the fate of not only Atlantis, but the pre-Diluvian world. Atlas being the defining individual and indeed word which could unravel this mystery. Is it mere coincidence that Atlas is incredibly similar in lexical similarity to Atlantis, and also that it is the name given to the map of modern landmasses and indeed the oceans of our modern world? Could this making of Atlas as king by Poseidon, claimed by Plato, be an admittance to an awareness of the Atlanteans' fate by Plato himself, with Poseidon deciding the fate of Atlantis, the god of the sea, earthquakes, and thus cataclysm? Has this mythical continent of Atlantis never been found because we have already found it. Proof of their existence, and indeed inhabited landmasses, being all the existing advanced ancient ruins we so often cover here on our channel, which escape explanation, surviving above the waves. Not only has the ancient pyramids been found to have once been submerged under several meters of seawater, but countless other ruins we have covered also share this intriguing characteristic. Are we looking at the past existence of the Atlanteans every time we explore an as yet unexplained advanced ancient ruin? The instructors of these ruins, the font of this knowledge, having been the Atlanteans themselves, who, just like the legends tell of, met their untimely demise at the hands of a great deluge? We find the evidence to suggest such highly compelling. Mersin, a large city and port on the Mediterranean coast of southern Turkey, with some extraordinary ancient ruins. Named after an aromatic plant, Mersini, a genus of the myrtle plant family, a plant which has a deep and mysterious historic relationship with humans, still to be found growing in abundance in the area. A place which 17th century traveler Eviaci Liber wrote of, noting an ancient clan named Marcino Liber, presumably also named after this special species of plant. Excavated by John Garstang, who managed to examine 23 levels of occupation at the mysterious ruins. According to academia, the ancient fortifications found at the location were put up around 4500 BC, with the site, like so many others we have covered over the past 2 years, abruptly abandoned at some point within antiquity. That, although obviously due to a cataclysmic event far before 4500 BC, is a date argued by funded academics worldwide. Our recent video explaining our own conclusions of this being due to natural cyclical solar activity, subsequently triggering volcanic eruptions, which in turn triggered great floods and a possible ice age. It seems struck a chord that some do not want resonating, with it being aggressively dismissed by a volley of objections, coming from several directions and sources. Our own thesis, based upon personal, exhaustive, and detailed exploration, often accompanied by our own personal discoveries at sites the world over. Discoveries never before made or indeed publicly shared. Often intriguing connections linking these ancient sites with each other. Our theory regarding their demise, however, has been attempted to be dismissed, seemingly en masse, in favor of a comet impact, with most of mainstream media, including Nat Geo and indeed the Smithsonian, not forgetting a certain suspiciously successful YouTube channel, which we shall not mention the name of, who we now perceive as controlled opposition to our own hard-earned discoveries and conclusions thereof, releasing a volley of opposing claims shortly before and immediately after our own release of information surrounding our solar hypothesis. This released within our video concerning Atlantis being that of the pre-Diluvian world, rather than a single continent, with these mainstream entities pushing an opposing theory in unison, relating to a conveniently timed discovery of a comet impact crater in Greenland. Additionally, we also believe we have unraveled, after some contemplation, their motivations for attempting to conceal solar activity as being the original causation. Yet, we will leave it up to you to decide why these ancient sites worldwide were seemingly all abandoned. Our reason for being reluctant to present a full exposé of not only our discoveries regarding their motive for concealing solar activity, but also who would want to, is that we truly feel exposing such agendas would jeopardize our work in several ways. We may digress, however, if we continue our work along the same path. The astute among you may come to realize such motivations on your own. The focus of this video, however, is not solely regarding the recent attack we witnessed upon our work, regardless of the mountain of evidence we have surrounding solar activity. It does not regard the nihilist worship of the sun, a culture we have long postulated were a surviving fragment of this once highly advanced civilization, or rather, what we now perceive was an obsession with the observation of the sun due to fearful memories, rather than that of worship, but rather the uncanny, advanced, as yet unexplainable architecture which can be found dotting Mersenne and indeed the world. Mersenne, like many other extremely ancient, well-built fortifications, became a part of many states and civilizations: the Hittites, Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Seleucids, and Lagids, to name but a few. With polygonal masonry being one of the most easily recognized characteristics, a characteristics for all you amateur explorers out there to use, to easily identify sites as pre-Diluvian. Littering the site, it is a sophisticated, unexplained form of masonry that is also found within Peru, Egypt, Necromantion, uncannily similar in style, may we add, although many other Greek sites such as Delphi, Italy, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, Lebanon, and so on. A method of construction left by a civilization we now feel the evidence for the existence of, and indeed them being academically hidden thanks to ours and others' exhaustive efforts, has become overwhelming. And our suspicions regarding the reasons for the concealing of them, and indeed the reason for their demise, are irrelevant. Even if subsequently blaming climate fluctuations upon our planet, on human activities, is not only incredibly profitable, but also a cunning method of controlling the human population. These circumstantial factors are irrelevant to the evidence of the past existence of this extremely intelligent, clearly technologically advanced, and capable civilization. Evidence that has seen funded institutes scrambling to push specific opinions upon inquisitive minds. Regardless of whether we now realize the motivation behind the attack on our channel, undoubtedly being due to the fact that we are certainly onto something, regardless of Poseidon's trident, the undeniable links of this symbolic weaponry with modern-day destroyers, whether physical nuclear threats or spiritual depictive clues, indicators of specific human capabilities, not placed out of mockery, but a nod to those in the know, that if you watch our previous video carefully, will realize strongly supports our theory regarding the Atlanteans, Plato's clue, and academia's awareness yet concealment of such realities. These modern factors are irrelevant to our mission of unraveling the past. However, the fact that it seems that we must now tread carefully regarding the truth of ancient Earth, we do not find concerning, for indeed, we have long expected this reaction, a consequence we predicted would occur once we started to get close to a truth hidden by profiteering. Rather, we find it all to be highly compelling. If you enjoy our content, if you think our battle worthy, please help us to continue our voyage of discovery in unraveling the mysteries of history. Links to donate can be found within the description. Without you, we cannot survive. Thank you.